In the NFL, you don't always get what you pay for, especially when it comes to the free agent frenzy period. Usually teams are overspending. But one question that has to be asked is, does winning free agency equate to more wins in the NFL? I've long talked about how building through the draft is the right way to build an NFL roster. And in the last 3 years, Ryan Poles has focused on being diligent in free agency while building this roster up in a couple of key trades as well. Today, we're going to go ahead and take a look back at the last 10 years in the NFL's free agency, checking out how the NFL's biggest spenders have actually performed during that season. This chart is going to show off the NFL's highest spending team in free agency over the last 10 years, how much money they spent, and how many wins they improved by that year. Initially, the chart looks positive. You spend big in free agency and your win total improves. As you can see, 9 out of the last 10 years, the team that spent the most in free agency improved their win total by at least 3 games. So, spending big in free agency does help your team win a couple more games, at least for 1 year. That correlation is clear. But the problem is there is absolutely no correlation between spending big in free agency and having long term success or even winning a Super Bowl. It actually works out more like a band aid that does not equate to long term success. 8 out of the last 10 years, the teams that spent biggest in free agency regress the following season. None of these teams listed here have competed for a Super Bowl, and there were only 2 playoff appearances in 10 years. One of them was by the 2018 Chicago Bears. We're not even going to mention what happened that year. But this is what the microwave society doesn't seem to understand. They only see half the picture, and they see that spending big does help teams improve. And that's what everyone cares about, right? Instant success. Everyone wants those instant results, and that's what free agency tends to provide. But overspending in free agency has led to teams winning exactly 0 Super Bowls, and that is not how you build for sustained success in the NFL. The evidence is clear, but let's go ahead and look at it another way. Instead of just looking at the biggest spending team, let's go back from 20 to 23 and look at the 10 biggest spenders in free agency, as well as how much each team spent over that time period, how many playoff appearances each team has, and of course, the 0 Super Bowl wins they have as well. Again, the evidence is pretty alarming. Even just looking at the teams listed, and you'll notice these are not the teams among the NFL's best. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars were spent by all of these teams, and they won a total of 0 Super Bowls because of it. The Bears actually, for some reason, are known as cheap by some fans, but this chart proves otherwise. From 2020 to 2023, the Bears were top 10 free agent spenders. And this is including 2023 when we did absolutely nothing in free agency. That's the year Ryan Poles was hired, and we were tearing the roster down. With Ryan Poles, we're not even in the top 20 in free agent spending. That is a key difference here when it comes to Poles versus Pace. Ryan Poles has always been diligent in free agency, and that is one of the things I've applauded. But let's take a look at the one team that has been the biggest free agent spender in the league over the last 10 years. The Jacksonville Jaguars. They've been one of the top 10 biggest spenders in free agency every single season for the last decade. The only team in the NFL to accomplish that feat. They also led the league in spending in 3 out of the last 10 years. They've also easily spent more team in free agency over the last 10 seasons. What has it gotten them? Exactly one 10-win season and 2 playoff appearances, and again, 0 Super Bowls. They've also had a top 10 pick in 14 out of the last 17 drafts. Can you even imagine that? Let's step back for a second as Bears fans. This rebuild with Ryan Poles, we now have a pick in the top 10 for the third straight year. And it feels like this rebuild has been going on forever. The Jags have not only been the biggest spenders in the NFL, but they also had a top 10 pick in 14 out of 17 years. Can you even imagine that? They've had more opportunities than any other franchise to draft blue chip prospects, yet, with all of the free agent spending they've done and all of those picks in the top 10, it is still not equated to success in Jacksonville. This should be a cautionary tale for any fan that wants to overspend in free agency. The Jags this season are again top 10 spenders in 2025, making it 11 straight seasons. Meanwhile, the Chicago Bears, even though we're going all in this offseason, people would expect us to be top five in free agent spending, right? Would it surprise you that we've actually spent less than Jacksonville has in free agency this season? We are only 11th in free agent spending. Now, that is partly because Joe Tooney and Jonah Jackson were traded for. They were not free agent signings. But again, that was Ryan Poles being diligent. He knew that guys like Will Fries were going to get overpaid, and instead he traded for guards that not only were system fits, but also had familiarity with the coaching staff. Jonah Jackson has worked with Ben Johnson, and Joe Tooney's not only familiar with Ryan Poles, but he's also worked with Eric Bieniemy. So that's a huge point here, guys. Even going all in, Ryan Poles still managed to spend less in free agency than the Jags do literally every season. This is just another in a long line of examples that prove Ryan Poles is playing chess, while a lot of GMs in the NFL are still playing checkers. And that includes every one of the Bears' past GMs over these last 20 years. Ryan Poles understands the process, and this team's future is finally in good hands. The bottom line is pretty simple. All the data and statistics skew heavily towards one truth. The best teams in the NFL are usually the lowest spending teams in free agency. Now, every once in a while, these teams will spike and maybe spend for one off season, but over the course of time, these teams never consistently spend big. If you look at the teams that win Super Bowls, they are consistently the teams that draft and develop their own talent and pay their own players. And the worst teams in the NFL are usually the biggest spenders. That's one of the biggest reasons why I've been a huge fan of the process that Ryan Poles brought to Chicago, building through the NFL draft and being diligent in free agency. I absolutely love the moves he did this offseason. I think he has completed this rebuild. This roster has been completely overhauled. 51 out of 53 roster spots. I think most of us are just ready for the NFL draft and so excited for this upcoming season. Let me know what you guys think about this one. I did put a ton of work into this. Please hit that like button for me. Stay tuned. I have more content on the way. And until next time, bear down.